Captain Victor Hayes sat in the command chair of the human exploration vessel Discovery and watched the asteroid storm rage across his screens. The massive rocks tumbled through space like angry giants, each one moving at tremendous speed. His crew worked quietly at their stations, their faces calm but focused. Victor had trained them well. In his 15 years commanding ships, he had learned that panic killed faster than any weapon. The communication officer, Park, turned to look at him. Her voice was steady when she spoke. "Captain, we are receiving a distress signal from the battleship's Fury. They are in trouble. The asteroid storm is hitting them hard." Victor leaned forward. They were not known for being friendly to humanity. In fact, for the last 100 years, they had treated humans as dangerous animals from harsh. They called humanity primitive and savage. They refused to do business with humans or share their knowledge. But a distress signal was a distress signal. It meant lives were in danger. "Send a message to the," Victor said. "Tell them we are close by and we can help." The response came back quickly. Supreme Officer's voice was cold and harsh on the communication channel. His words were clear. He did not want human help. He said humans were not qualified to work on technology. He said accepting help from humans would bring shame to his people. He told Discovery to stay away and let them handle their own problems. Victor listened to the message without showing emotion. He knew they were proud. He knew they looked down on humans, but he also knew something else. That ship was carrying thousands of people. His instruments showed life signs everywhere on the vessel: families, children, workers who had no choice in being on that ship. "Keep monitoring their situation," Victor told. "Tell me the moment things get worse." Around him, his crew continued their work. Engineers checked the engines. Weapons officers prepared for any danger. Medical teams stood ready. Victor had chosen each person on this ship carefully. He wanted people who were smart and brave. He wanted people who would do the right thing even when it was hard. 30 minutes passed, then spoke again. "Captain, the ship is losing power. Their magnetic shields are failing. The asteroids are hitting them directly now. They have maybe 1 hour before the hull breaks open." Victor stood up. He walked to the and looked at the distant shape of the battleship. It was shaking as rocks smashed into it. Fires burned on its outer surface. Somewhere inside that ship, thousands of living beings were scared and facing death. He made his choice. "Get me a direct line to Supreme Officer," Victor said. His voice was calm but strong. When answered, Victor did not wait for the officer to speak first. "Supreme Officer, my ship has the ability to help yours. I am sending rescue teams. My people have experience working on damaged ships. We do not need your permission. We are coming anyway." There was silence on the communication channel. Then's angry voice came back. "You will not board my ship, human. This is an order." Victor cut the communication. "Prepare the rescue teams," he told his crew. "Full suits, emergency equipment, repair tools. We are going over there. That is an order." Within 20 minutes, the first rescue shuttle left Discovery. It carried 10 of Victor's best people. Robert Cole was the lead engineer. He had worked on ships for 30 years and had fixed more broken systems than anyone Victor knew. Cole was not young anymore, but he was tough and smart. He did not complain about danger. The shuttle docked with the battleship. The airlock hissed open. Cole and his team moved through the ship like they knew every part of it, even though they had never been on a vessel before. They were smart and they learned fast. Cole found the main power core. It was badly damaged. Pieces were broken. The safety systems were not working. If this core exploded, it would destroy the entire ship and kill everyone on it. "We can fix this," Cole said into his communication device. "But we need to work fast." As Cole worked, other human teams spread through the ship. They helped the crew move people to safety. They fixed broken systems. They did whatever needed to be done. The crew watched them work. Some of them were surprised. They had never seen humans work before. They had expected laziness and mistakes. Instead, they saw skill and speed and determination. A young officer named Al stood near Robert Cole as the human engineer worked on the power core. Al was new to the military and still had much to learn. He watched Cole's hands move quickly and sure. He saw the way Cole made quick decisions without stopping to think. He heard Cole talking to his team, encouraging them, making sure everyone was working together. Al had been trained his whole life that humans were lesser, that they were simple creatures, that they could not be trusted. But watching Cole work, something changed in the young officer's mind. What he saw was skill. What he saw was courage. What he saw was a being who was willing to die to save strangers. 30 minutes before the ship's power would fail completely, Robert Cole fixed the main core. The power came back. The lights turned on. The emergency system started working again. Victor's voice came through the speakers. "All teams, this is the captain. Begin evacuation procedures. We have stabilized their ship. Get back to the shuttles." Cole was moving toward the evacuation point when he saw a section of the ship starting to collapse. There were still people in that area. He made a split-second choice. He broke away from his team and ran toward the danger. "Cole, no!" A voice shouted over the communication. Cole did not hear it or did not care. He ran into the collapsing section and helped a group of young workers get to safety. The ceiling came down behind them. Cole was cut off from the main route. He rerouted power to keep the backup systems running. He gave the workers time to escape. His team came back and pulled him out, but he was badly hurt. They rushed him to the shuttle. When Supreme Officer saw the injured Robert Cole being carried by human rescue workers, something changed in the commander's face. He looked at Cole with different eyes. He saw a creature who had risked everything. A creature who had gone into danger not for glory or reward, but simply because people needed help. 3,000 civilians lived because humans chose to help them. Supreme Officer stood in front of Robert Cole in the medical bay of Discovery. Cole was heavily bandaged, but he was alive and recovering well. Looked at the human engineer for a long moment. Then the officer spoke words that would be remembered across many star systems. "You have shown us something we did not know existed," said. "Your people are not savages. You are something greater. You have shown us honor." Victor Hayes stood nearby and watched as the Supreme Officer placed his hand on Cole's shoulder. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. A door had opened between two species, a door that had been locked for 100 years. The story of the rescue spread through space like fire. Every news channel talked about it. Every citizen knew what had happened. A ship of humans had risked everything to save people. Some of the people said this was good. Other people said humans were trying to trick them. Supreme Officer stood before the Galactic Council. This was the group that made the big decisions for many different species. There were representatives from the Morpheus Collective, and many others. They all had power. They all had weapons. They all had pride. Told them the story of the rescue. He told them how humans worked without stopping. He told them how Robert Cole went into danger to save workers. He told them that humans had honor. He said that humanity should be given full membership in the Galactic Council. This was a big thing to ask. It would give humans real power. It would give them a seat at the table when important decisions were made. Captain Victor Hayes was invited to speak to the council. He sat in a chair before all the representatives. He was not nervous. He had been trained his whole life to stay calm under pressure. He spoke clearly and simply to them. "We did not help the ship because we wanted to gain power or wealth," Victor said. "We helped because that is who we are. Humanity comes from a world that is harsh and dangerous. We have learned that we survive when we help each other. We survive when we build friendships instead of making enemies. We would like to join the Galactic Council not to be better than anyone else, but to be partners with everyone." The council was quiet. Then the representative spoke. They were wise and old. They had been in space for longer than any other species. "This human speaks with truth," they said. "We support full membership for humanity." One by one, the other representatives agreed. Even some of the agreed, though they were known for being difficult and violent. The vote was almost complete. Humanity would be admitted to the Galactic Council. But then something happened that no one expected. A communication came in from a border outpost near human space. A human settlement called Settlers' Haven was under attack. The collective, not the representatives on the council, but a military faction led by a general named, or had decided that humanity could not be allowed to gain power. They were attacking the colony to stop human membership in the council. The Galactic Council went quiet. Everyone looked at everyone else. This was a test. Would the humans fight? Would the humans be worthy partners, or would they fall apart? Victor received the message at the same time the council did. His face stayed calm, but inside he was thinking hard. Settlers' Haven had 5,000 people. Many of them were children. The attack was happening right now. He looked directly at, "My people are under attack. I must defend them." "Stood up, they will stand with you." The response was fast. 2 warships left to help defend Settlers' Haven. Victor's ship, the Discovery, also jumped to faster than light speed. The race began to see who would get there first. When they arrived, the battle was already happening. Ships filled the sky around Settlers' Haven. On the ground, soldiers were attacking the colony's main settlement. The humans were fighting back, but they were fewer in number. They were losing ground. The ships came out of hyperspace and moved to attack the ships. The human soldiers on the ground got new hope. Help had come. They were not alone. Lieutenant Susan Grant was the military commander on Settlers' Haven. She was a tough woman who had trained the colony's defense force. She knew that her people could not win this battle alone, but now they had a chance. Susan organized her soldiers to work with the warriors who landed to help fight. They were strong and had good weapons. The humans were quick and smart. They knew the land around the settlement. They knew the buildings. They used this knowledge well. The fighting was hard and many soldiers fell, both human and. A young human sergeant named David Monroe was fighting near a key position in the settlement. A warrior named was fighting beside him. They did not know each other before this day, but now they fought like they had trained together for years. An explosion came from a damaged building. Both David and were knocked to the ground. They were both wounded. Blood came from David's arm. Side was torn by shrapnel. They could have retreated. They could have fallen back and let someone else hold the line. Instead, they stood up together. "We hold here," David said. "We hold here," repeated. They stood shoulder to shoulder and held their position. Around them, other soldiers saw their courage. A human would die to help would die to help a human. If they were willing to fight that hard, then everyone else would fight that hard too. The turning point came when a group of soldiers tried to push through David's position. The 2 warriors held strong. They did not move. They did not break. More human soldiers came to support them. More warriors came to stand with them. The attack broke against them like a wave breaking against a rock. By the time the fighting ended, they had left. They jumped to hyperspace and ran away. They had lost too many soldiers. They could not win. The cost was high. 37 human soldiers were dead. 19 warriors were dead. Many more were wounded. David Monroe and were both badly hurt and taken to the medical center. Victor walked through the settlement they saw the damage. They saw the places where people had died. They saw the bodies being prepared for burial. "Your people are brave," said. "Your people are brave," Victor replied. They looked at each other with new understanding. Bravery was not something that belonged to one species. Bravery belonged to anyone who stood up and fought for what was right. The Galactic Council voted again. This time there was no argument. Humanity was admitted to the Galactic Council as full members, but more important than the vote was something else. The Inhumans had fought together. They had bled together. They had lost friends together. That created a bond that words could not explain. In the medical center, David Monroe and lay in beds next to each other. David was conscious and in pain, but he was alive. Was also alive, also in pain, also alive. David reached out his good arm, reached out his good arm. Their hands touched. "Thank you," David said. "Thank you," said back. Two warriors from different worlds, different species, different everything, but they understood each other perfectly. They had fought alongside each other, and in that moment that was all that mattered. 6 months had passed since the battle at Settlers' Haven. The human friendship was now very strong. Trade ships moved between their worlds. Young people from both species studied together on neutral space stations. Military units trained together. The galaxy was changing. But there was a problem growing in the dark corners of space. The collective, angry about their loss, was planning something terrible. A general named or had built a secret laboratory on an abandoned space station hidden in an asteroid field. Inside that station, scientists were creating a weapon. This weapon was designed to kill only. It was a bioweapon. If released it would kill every alive. The Galactic Council's intelligence division found out about this plan. Victor was called to a secret meeting. Was there. Susan Grant was there. The leaders of the other species were there. "This weapon must be stopped," the representative said. "If they succeed, they will kill an entire species. This cannot be allowed." "But the station is heavily defended," another representative said. "They have military forces there. An open attack could fail and many will die." Victor listened to all of this. Then he spoke. "We need a covert team, small enough to move without being detected, smart enough to get in and get out. We can do this with minimal losses if we plan it right." Nodded. "I will join this mission, and I choose the best warriors to go with us." "I will lead the mission," Victor said. "My people have experience with this type of work." The preparation took 3 weeks. Victor chose his best soldiers. Susan wanted to go, but Victor told her he needed her to command the human forces in case they had to evacuate. She did not like this decision, but she understood. The team assembled: 12 humans, 8 warriors, 2 specialists, 3 experts from the Morpheus Collective, 25 soldiers from different species, all willing to give their lives to stop a genocide. They called themselves the Shadow Team. The flight to the asteroid field took 5 days. During that time, Victor thought about what they were about to do. These were good people. Many of them would probably not come back. He thought about this a lot. He thought about Robert Cole. He thought about David Monroe, and he thought about all the people who had already sacrificed. But they were doing this so thousands would live, so families would not die, so the galaxy would not see genocide. When they reached the asteroid field, they moved carefully. Their ship was small and dark. It did not show up on radar screens easily. They docked at a maintenance port on the station that the intelligence team had found. Nobody knew they were coming. The station was huge. It had 3 main sections. The weapon was in the central section. Victor split the team into 3 groups. One group would try to evacuate the prisoners they held on the station. Another group would attack the military defenses. The third group, including Victor and a commander named Al, would try to disarm the weapon. Al was the young officer who had watched Robert Cole during the rescue mission. He had thought a lot about what he had learned that day. He had become a different kind of soldier. He did not believe that a few lives were worth sacrificing many. He believed that every life had value. He had volunteered for this mission immediately when Victor asked. The teams moved through the station. For the first hour, nobody detected them. They moved quietly and carefully. Then the shooting started. The group attacking the defenses ran into soldiers. The fighting was loud and hard. Victor's group rushed toward the weapon storage area. They did not have much time now. The entire station would be on alert. Alarms were already sounding. When they reached the weapon room, Victor saw something that made his heart sink. The weapon was armed. It was ready to fire. It could be launched in minutes, and there was no simple shutdown switch. The weapon would need to be disarmed from inside the system itself. How long? Al asked. Victor looked at the weapon controls. 30 minutes maybe, but we do not have 30 minutes. People are coming. This station will be locked down soon. Al looked at his commander. Then he looked at the weapon. Then he looked back at Victor. Victor could see what Al was thinking. No, Victor said. There has to be another way. There is not, Al said. He was calm. He was not scared. I will stay here and work on the disarm. You take everyone else and get out. When I am finished, the weapon will be safe. You will not have time to escape, Victor said. I know, Al replied. Al moved to the control panel. His hands moved across it with skill and speed. Victor wanted to argue. He wanted to find another solution. But he knew his friend was right. There was no other way. Go, Al said. Stop wasting time talking, go. Victor turned and ran with the rest of the team. Behind them, they heard the sound of the disarm sequence starting. The escape was chaos. The other groups joined them as they ran through the corridors. Soldiers chased them. They fought their way to the evacuation shuttle. Behind them, the building shook. Explosions echoed through the metal passages. They made it to the shuttle with the prisoners. They launched and separated from the station. That is when they saw it. A commander had Victor cornered in a side passage. Victor was hurt from the battle. His weapon was out of ammunition. The commander had a gun pointed directly at Victor's chest. For a moment everything was frozen. The commander smiled. Victor was going to die. Then Al was there. The young officer had worked faster than anyone thought possible. He had gotten out of the weapon room and come back for Victor. He blocked the shot with his own body. The weapon fired. It hit Al directly in the chest. Victor caught his friend as he fell. Al's blood was blue, not red, but blood was blood. Al was dying. I finished the disarm, Al said. His voice was very quiet. The weapon is safe. Millions will live. Do not talk, Victor said. Save your strength. I do not have the strength to save, Al said. He smiled a little bit. But I had the strength to fight alongside you. That is enough. Fighting alongside humanity has shown me what true strength is. It is not weapons or power. It is the choice to help others. It is the choice to die so that others can live. That is true strength. Al closed his eyes. He was gone. Victor held his friend for a long moment. Then he stood up and picked up the commander's weapon. He did not hesitate. He did not think about it. He aimed and fired. The commander fell. The shuttle cleared the station. Behind them, the secondary explosions from the disarmed weapon lit up the asteroid field. The bioweapon was destroyed. The species would live. But the cost was very high. A good man had died. A warrior from a different world had given everything. Victor looked down at Al's body and made a silent promise. This sacrifice would not be forgotten. This friendship would be honored. This death would mean something. The fleet returned to Prime. The planet was beautiful from space. It had blue oceans and white clouds and green continents, but the mission was not happy. Al was dead. His body lay in a preservation chamber on Victor's ship. Came to see the body. He looked at the young officer for a long time. Then he looked at Victor. There were no tears in the commander's eyes, but something was happening behind them. Tell me what happened, said. Tell me everything. Victor told the story. He told about Al's bravery. He told about how the young officer had gone back for him. He told about Al's last words about fighting alongside humanity. Listened without speaking. When Victor finished, the commander nodded once. We will honor him, said. He will receive the greatest funeral our people can give. 2 days later, the funeral happened. The Galactic Council came. Representatives from every species attended. Humans came in large numbers. Susan Grant stood with her soldiers. Robert Cole, still recovering from his injuries, was there. David Monroe and came together, still weak but determined to pay respect. They combined human and funeral customs. A human chaplain spoke about courage and sacrifice. A priest spoke about honor and the strength that comes from fighting for others. Soldiers from both species stood in lines at attention. Their uniforms were different colors, but they all saluted the same way. Victor stood before everyone and spoke. Al was a young man who changed his mind about humanity. He learned to see past what he was taught. He learned to see the person inside, not the species outside. He learned that honor can be shared between different beings. And he learned that the greatest thing anyone can do is die so that others can live. Al did all of these things. He died protecting a friend. He died protecting people he did not know. He died so that the species would survive. He was a true warrior and a true friend. His name will be remembered forever. His sacrifice will be remembered forever. And everyone here will try to be as good, as brave, and as honorable as Al was. Stood and placed a military medal on Al's body. It was an honor that had only been given to the greatest warriors in history. Then Susan Grant placed a human military medal on the body as well. No human had ever received a medal before. Now a warrior had both. It was a moment that showed the new friendship between the species. After the funeral, the Galactic Council made an announcement. Al would be remembered forever. A memorial would be built on Prime to honor all soldiers who had died fighting for the Alliance. Both human and names would be carved into the memorial. The memorial would stand for thousands of years. Called a meeting with the leaders. He stood before them and spoke with power and emotion. For centuries we have believed that we were alone in our strength. We thought that other species were lesser. We were wrong. In the last months, the humans have taught us something important. They have shown us that real strength is not weapons or technology. Real strength is the choice to help people you do not know. Real strength is the choice to stand beside others when it is hard. Real strength is the choice to sacrifice. Paused and looked at each leader. I am making new orders. Starting immediately, schools will teach human history. We will teach young about Robert Cole and how he saved our people. We will teach them about David Monroe and how he stood beside. We will teach them about Al and how he learned to see humans as equals and then died as a hero. This is who we are now. This is what we believe. We are a species that fights alongside humanity, and we are better for it. The older leaders were quiet. Then one by one, they agreed. Change was coming to culture. Young would grow up knowing that humans were more than savages. They would grow up knowing that humans were friends and partners and honorable warriors. In the human sectors of the galaxy, the story also spread. Young humans heard about Al. They heard about a who had learned to see them differently. They heard about a warrior who had sacrificed everything for a friend from another species. Schools began teaching about the human alliance. Young humans learned that their species had earned respect through actions, not words. They learned that compassion was a strength, not a weakness. They learned that humans belonged among the stars not because they were better, but because they were brave enough to be themselves. A memorial was built on Prime. It was made of white stone that reflected light. Written on it were the names of all the fallen, human names and names carved together. The memorial faced a garden where both species plants grew together. On the day the memorial was dedicated, stood beside Susan Grant. They looked at the names together. Al's name is here, said. And Cole's name is here, Susan replied. And all the others, they gave us something. They gave us a future, said. A future where different species can live as one. Other species in the galaxy took notice. The who had been neutral before began working more closely with the human alliance. The Morpheus Collective asked to join their joint projects. Even some of the younger, disgusted by the actions of their military leaders, requested asylum in human and space. The universe was changing. Victor stood on the observation deck of his ship and looked out at the stars. He thought about Al. He thought about Cole. He thought about all the soldiers who had died. Their sacrifice had not been for nothing. The galaxy would be different now. It would be kinder. It would be stronger. It would remember that honor means more than pride and that unity means more than power. In his quarters, Victor found a message waiting for him. It was from young children on Prime. They had heard the story of the humans. They had heard about how humans fought alongside the. They wrote a simple message. We will be like you, we will be brave, we will be kind, we will help others. This is what your people taught us. Victor read the message many times. This was what Al's death had given to the galaxy. Not just peace or trade or military advantage, but a change in how species saw each other, a change in how they valued life, a change toward something better. Al's sacrifice had made the universe a better place, and that was everything. 2 years had passed. The galaxy was very different now. Trade routes connected human space and space. The friendship between the species had grown into something stronger than anyone expected. Admiral Victor Hayes stood on the bridge of his new ship. It was called the Unity. The name meant everything. This ship was built with human engineering and technology. The bridge had officers from 7 different species working together, a human at the helm, an officer managing weapons, a scientist studying new space, a Morpheus creature handling communications. They worked together without friction. They trusted each other. Victor looked at his crew and felt proud. This was what Al had died for. This was the future. A report came to Victor's desk. A young warrior named Ho had requested a position on the Unity. Ho was 20 years old. He had joined the military because of the stories he heard about Al. He kept a photograph of the fallen warrior in his quarters. He wanted to live up to the example that Al had set. Victor approved the request immediately. On a human colony world called New Hope, something important was happening. A joint colony was being built. Humans and working together to create a settlement that belonged to both species. There would be human buildings and buildings. There would be human food markets and food markets. Children from both species would grow up together, learning each other's languages. A decision was made. This colony would be named Al Station. When the news spread, people from both species volunteered to go there. Young soldiers wanted to defend it. Engineers wanted to build it. Teachers wanted to teach in its schools. Families wanted to raise their children in a place that represented something greater than themselves. One of the volunteers was a human engineer named Lisa. Lisa had been working on joint research projects with scientists. She had learned mathematics and architecture. She helped design the settlement so that it would serve both species perfectly. When Lisa talked about the work, her eyes were bright with excitement. "We are building more than a colony," Lisa said. "We are building a symbol. We are showing the galaxy that different beings can live together, that we can create something beautiful together." A young scientist named worked alongside Lisa, was brilliant. He could solve problems that seemed impossible. He and Lisa argued about design choices sometimes, but they always found solutions. They had learned each other's way of thinking. Humans and could think very differently, but when they worked together, the differences made them stronger, not weaker. On the Unity, Admiral Victor Hayes was training the next generation of military leaders. He called them together for a special lesson. "All of you know the story of the rescue of the battleship," Victor said. "You know about Robert Cole and his bravery. You know about David Monroe and fighting together. You know about Al's sacrifice. But do you understand what these stories really mean?" The young officers, human and in others, listened carefully. "These stories mean that strength comes from character, not from species. These stories mean that honor is more important than pride. These stories mean that the best decisions are often the ones that help others, even when they cost us something." Al learned to see humans not as enemies, but as equals. Robert Cole saw not as strangers, but as people worth dying for. These are the qualities that will make you great leaders. Victor looked directly at Ho, the young officer. Al gave his life so that the species would survive, but he also gave his life for something more important. He gave his life for the idea that different beings can be friends. That idea is still alive. That idea lives in all of you. When you fight, fight for that idea. When you lead, lead with that idea. And when you are facing a hard choice, remember Al and do what is right, even if it costs you everything. Ho's eyes were bright. He would spend his entire career trying to be worthy of Al's sacrifice. Back on Prime was old now. He was no longer the supreme commander. He had retired to teach at the military academy. His specialty was teaching about human relations. His classes were always full of young, eager to learn. On the first day of each class, told the same story. He told about the rescue mission. He described Robert Cole's hands working on the power core. He described the young officer Al watching and learning. He described the moment when the rescue was complete and thousands have lived because humans had risked everything. Remember this, always said at the end. Al learned that humans are capable of great things, but also remember that the humans learned something about us. They learned that honor comes from our actions, not from our weapons. Together, we became something greater than we were alone. As the years passed, the story of Al Station grew. The settlement became a place where different species came to live in peace. Families from a dozen different worlds settled there. Children played together without understanding why anyone would want them to be enemies. A school was built in Al Station. It taught the history of the human alliance. Thousands of young beings learned about the rescue mission. They learned about the battle at Settler's Haven. They learned about Al's sacrifice. Most importantly, they learned why these things mattered. When young beings asked their teachers why the station was named Al, the answer was always the same. Because Al was a warrior who learned that fighting alongside others was the greatest honor. He learned that friendship was stronger than weapons, and he died so that others could live. We named this station after him because we want to be like him. We want to build a home where all beings are welcome. We want to create a place where different species can be family. On the Unity, Admiral Victor Hayes was very old now. His hair was white. His hands sometimes shook, but his mind was still sharp and his spirit was still strong. He was training his replacement. A human captain named Maria Torres would command the Unity next. Victor took Maria to the memorial chamber on his ship. On the wall were photographs of all the soldiers who had died building the human alliance. Robert Cole's face was there. Al's face was there. Dozens of others from both species. These people gave us everything, Victor said quietly. They gave us peace. They gave us friendship. They gave us the idea that different beings can work together. When you command this ship, remember them. Make decisions that would make them proud. Maria looked at the faces on the wall. She was born after the rescue mission. She had grown up in a galaxy where humans and were partners. She did not know what it was like when they were enemies, but she understood the value of what had been created. I will remember them, Maria said. I promise. Victor placed his hand on Al's photograph. The young officer looked out from the picture with brave eyes. Victor had been there when Al died. He had heard the final words. He had carried that young warrior's body. He had cried for his friend. But now, looking at the photograph, Victor smiled. Al had achieved something greater than he could have imagined. His sacrifice had changed the galaxy. Millions of young beings would grow up knowing about his courage. Millions would learn that honor comes from helping others. That was the greatest legend anyone could have. Across the stars, the story was still being told. New captains learned it. New soldiers studied it. Parents told their children about Al and about the humans who had shown what true strength meant. The legend had not faded. Instead, it had grown stronger with time, because the truth at the heart of the story was powerful. Fighting alongside humanity had brought honor. It had brought change. It had brought the understanding that different beings could be greater together than they could ever be alone. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all.